one more short story. Thank you for joining us on another episode of One More Short Story with me, Chris Fulwell, bringing you audiobooks, but shorter. This week's episode theme is "And Now for Something Different." Now, I was going to call it "And Now for Something Completely Different," but I didn't want to tread on the python's toes, and you never know if John Cleese is listening with his green pen of fury poised, ready to send an angry missive in my direction. You just never know. What I mean by all of this is that these 4 stories have done something rather different. Now, that could be they've done something different with their genre or their prompts during the competition. It could mean that the ending goes off in a slightly different direction to what you would expect. Or in one case, it could just mean that the entire genre was rather different, and that this is a great and bonkers example of it. 4 stories, something different. Let's get cracking. To start with, we have A Becoming Man by Tommy Baker. This was in an early battle in this year, 2026. It was in the origin story category, and Tommy's prompts were origin story, hedonist, or hedonist I suppose, depending on where you are in the world, and salt. There's a lot to like in this story. Tommy, the author, and Rhys the narrator are both Australians. It's got an unmistakable Australian narrative voice, and I greatly enjoyed this one. I really, really did. I won't say too much more now. We'll talk more after the episode, but here we go. Here is A Becoming Man by Tommy Baker.
I don't remember when I first met Joel. I was on serious medication at the time, and the fog of his moustached face is bleary at best from the first few times under the bridge. Willie's Bridge is what we all called it. By serious medication, I mean vodka, and by Joel, well, I mean God. God has a moustache, by the way, not a beard like all those guilty paintings of his son. They plastered that damn image all over the halls in school. I felt it lost its flair after the first few times you saw his teary eyes reaching off into the days over your shoulder. If he did it for you, the least he could do would be look you in the eye. Joel showed me the ropes, the joys of being seen, that is. He had the most creative ways of filling time, not just filling it, but expanding it. He became other people. He took their lives. Don't worry, not in the way you're thinking. Wouldn't bloody kill anyone or anything. He took who they thought they were. It was magic. He once told me I was someone else before we met. Guess he could be right. We were in our 20s, but you would never think that. It didn't show anyway. Joel with his bush of a top lip and me with a fistful of gel in my black hair could pass any door with a few tricks. And Joel had the tricks. He knew people too. Dodgy ones. Ones he still owes favours to. Favours that aren't getting paid. Probably why we were always under Willie's Bridge with socks full of dirt and nothing to eat but chips and chicken salt. I call Joel God only because he is. I mean, I'm pretty sure he placed in the top 5 people who can create shit out of thin air. One day, he came back to Willie's wearing nothing but a pair of clean white undies and a gold chain as thick as a thumb. It wasn't some tinny thing either. He hawked it for almost 14 grand. A week later, all we had were the undies. But it was a bloody fun week. We had heaps of good weeks. Shitty days, sure, but you look back on a week and 9 times out of 10 it was a cracker. But Joel was always the one who made it so. Until the Carlisle, that is. Joel's high was getting in. Sliding past the tightly shut door put up by folks that don't even hit the streets where someone might have had a hat on the ground. They drive past in shiny black cars and mutter at the window with rich frowns and little dogs on the front seat. The biggest of those tight-ass doors? The Carlisle Hotel in Brizzy. Holy shit, it is slick. You could just sit at the pool and the drinks just come to you. You tell people in linen aprons what you want, give them a room number and scribble on a little paper, and whooshka! A minute later you have a fancy glass with fruit sticking out the top. Joel said I wasn't allowed to get the usual double voddy and coke. might flag us. So I just drank a shit ton of fancies and kept my head low. Joel did all the talking. Sometimes the talking wasn't even needed. He brought lanyards, hard hats, overalls he'd nicked from Vinnie's, whatever. The nip, he'd called it. "Come on, let's go nip a place," he'd say. That was him all day. Me, on the other hand, I'd be sweating bullets getting in. But once we'd nipped a place, and I got a couple of cordials in me, that was all good. I'd just watch and learn. The Carlisle was my first. I was busy filling my guts with spicy juice and feeling the sun on my junk when Joel turned to me and gave me a tap on the head. "Hick one," he said. He grabbed my wrist and leaned over close. "But remember, Skid, once you tell them, that's it. You're done." My body did a weird jittery thing when he said that, like my skin turned to liquid for a second. "That one," I said to Joel. "You sure?" he asked. "Yep." I stood, downed my glass, and walked around the pool. The guy watched me the whole time, like he knew it was coming. I think he was shaking. I stopped at the end of his sun chair, and his dog started going mental. "Stop it, Sandy, stop it," he said to the puffy thing, and gave it a good flick on the nose. It stopped quick smart, and he looked up to me, adjusting his sunnies. They had thick gold arms running over his ears. "Can I help you?" he said. Fuck, his teeth were perfect. I said it then. His name. The one that he saved for the special moments that granted him peace. His true name. He went limp for a moment. Then he took off his glasses, got up, and walked away. He didn't say a word. He just left. It worked. The sun warmed my back as I watched him leave. I looked all round at all the people. Nobody moved. I looked over to where Joel and I were sitting. Nobody there. I sat down, picked up the empty glass, and shook it at the waiter. My dog curled up close to me, and I leaned back. I knew where the man was going. Straight to Willie's Bridge. That's where.
When I first read that, I just knew we had to have it on the show. It's a really, really good story, and it just does so much with such a theoretically straightforward idea. A couple of unemployed individuals in a certain stage in their life just seeing what they can get away with, but then it just goes off into these slightly fantastical directions of, I think I understand what they've done. I'm not 100%, but actually I'm okay with that. I don't mind a bit of ambiguity when it's done well, and Tommy's done it very, very well here. I actually got a bit of a Haruki Murakami vibe at the end there. Now, that could just be me going off on a slightly pretentious tangent, but I really did with the idea of what may or may not have happened with the chap at the pool, with the dog, and then off to the bridge. I don't mind it when a story's not spelled out to me. I really enjoyed that, and Rhys did an excellent job of narrating that. It had to be an Australian narrator for this story, and I think both Tommy and Rhys did a really, really strong piece of work there for us. That story picked up an honourable mention at the results time. I think it was robbed. I would say that, wouldn't I? And I'm right. Can you hear me, judges? I'm right. But Tommy Baker is absolutely an author to watch out for. So, well done, Tommy. Our next story today comes from the spring microfiction from 2025, from the apocalyptic game show genre. We featured one or two stories from that genre before. This story took it in a very, very different direction. The story's called Just for Laughs, and it's by E.M. Forrest. Her prompts were apocalyptic game show, shopping mall, and betrayer. Now, to someone as simple-minded as me, I'd probably be thinking of something like the running man in a shopping mall, and then someone's betrayed. But no, that's not what E.M. Forrest has done here at all, and it's all the better for it. I shall shut up now and let you enjoy Maverick Jones's reading of this story. So here we go. This is Just for Laughs by E.M. Forrest, read by Maverick Jones.
I froze. gripping the bench. What if she never comes back? My panic thawed when she rounded the corner, sluggishly dragging herself down the hall. I could barely recognize the puffy-eyed skeleton I called Mom, and it was all my fault. If I hadn't badgered her about getting the latest Harry Potter, she wouldn't have been at the mall that day. She wouldn't have spotted Dad and Aunt Mimi behind the frozen yogurt stand. Wouldn't have kicked him out, stopped sleeping, smiling, looking at me. It's not the end of the world. A lot of parents divorce, Layla had said between pirouettes, spoken like a kid from an unbroken home. Theo's greedy shriek shook me to attention. I handed him the cup, and he gulped down its contents like only a gluttonous toddler could. Taking care of Mom's precious little whoopsie baby was my punishment for ending life as we knew it. I was doomed from the start. A second-class citizen since the day he was born. But since Dad's betrayal, I was a pariah, only good for making diaper runs and mac and cheese. What pre-teen stood a chance in the game of Are You Cuter Than a Preschooler? I would have given anything to go back to our mother-daughter nights, staying up watching Just for Laughs gags. The only thing keeping me going was hope. I screwed things up so I could make them better. One day Mom would look at me again. We'd eat and joke and laugh like before. When Mom finally reached us, she nudged me with her back. Hungry? I nodded, so we pushed Theo's stroller to the food court, giving Mary's Froyo stand a wide berth. Soon we sat beneath the skylights, surrounded by plastic plants and the smell of deep fryers. When a teen with piercings and blue hair walked by, "Hey, Mom, remember that gag when, for God's sake, Molly, keep an eye on your brother?" I looked down to find Theo wrist deep in Mom's chop suey, giggling. Of course, that little turd would sabotage me. Mom rifled through her purse for wipes as I sighed an apology and got back to slurping my soda. It was at that moment Theo shoved a fistful of greasy bean sprouts down the front of his diaper. He cackled. I gasped, and before I knew it, soda was streaming out of my nose. Theo was stunned before his little body shook with laughter. It burned so bad. But then I felt a familiar pat on my forearm. Mom's hand. I looked up and saw her offering the wipe she'd retrieved for my brother. More importantly, I saw her seeing me. Not through tears of pain, but tears of laughter. Maybe winning her back would be a team effort. Maybe it wasn't the end of the world after all.
Thank you, Maverick, and thank you, E.M. Forrest. What a story. What a story. So for someone as young as the main character there, absolutely, the domestic bomb that's gone off will absolutely feel like the end of the world. And the references to the game shows and the interplay between the main character and their little brother. Any of us with small kids, or indeed with siblings who are close in age when growing up, or not close in age, will identify strongly with what the writer's done there. This story got out of the house stage and went to the sensational 64, so very, very well done, E.M. Forrest. Proof that stories go off and do their own thing can succeed if they're done well, which this one was. Our third story today is by Stacey George, who is, I believe, new to Writing Battle this year in 2026. It's from the Tempest Raven battle, and it's from the paranormal romance category. Her prompts were paranormal romance, hunter, and pillow, and it's called 7 Tips for Better Birdwatching. I will not spoil this story, I refuse to. It's narrated by me, with a guest appearance here and there from my wife Hannah. Thank you, Hannah. So, this is 7 Tips for Better Birdwatching by Stacey George, narrated by me and Hannah. Terry's face glowed green in the glare of the EMF detector's screen. Turned out ghost hunting wasn't that dissimilar to birdwatching, except he wasn't looking for a rare and elusive waxwing or golden oriole. Tonight, Terry was searching for his dead wife.
1. Feather identification determines the species.
In the 2 weeks since May's funeral, single white feathers kept appearing around the house. Soft, semi-translucent veins curling up from fragile quills. One on the breadboard, one in his left walking boot, and another on the bathroom scale. Being a self-proclaimed rational man, Terry first assumed they must have escaped from a pillow, although he'd insisted on synthetic stuffing. Feathers belong on birds, not in bedding, he'd once told May. She'd simply nodded and carried on wallpapering the hall. It was just as well. He couldn't bring himself to disturb May's side of the bed, and the pillow's indented dip where her head used to lie. Sleeping was the only time she settled. Her brown hair, a nest of strands sticking out in all directions, wild as the woods. Always busy. It took her getting sick for him to notice how much she did for them, how she never left the house. Lately, nature turned to nurture as he gave up his birding trips to care for May full time. Each morning she'd stifle a groan as she rolled over in bed, and he'd brush the knots from her hair, careful not to pull, while she talked about her plans to paint the kitchen or retile the bathroom. Then, a month ago, Terry woke to silence. Not even a hint of bird song. No chatter about decorating or home renovations. No chance to say goodbye. His hobby once kept him out at silly hours, gone for days. Distant, but May was always there when he returned. Until now. When Terry found a 4th feather on top of his birdwatching magazine, he marched into the garden and let the wind snatch it away.
2. Birds are often heard before they're seen.
But then last week, a loud thump made him spill his tea. Upstairs, his binoculars, which were always on the bedside table, lay cracked next to the laundry basket. It was May. Only she could think of something like that to get his attention from the other side. A couple of days later, he smelled honeysuckle while reading in the study. He'd always found May's perfume quite cloying, but he'd breathed that scent in till it filled up all the empty parts inside of him. How could someone as vibrant as May completely disappear? Terry stood in the dusk-dark living room, waiting.
3. Sudden movements might scare birds.
Except May wasn't timid. At least she hadn't been in life. He half expected to see her swinging a mallet like the time she'd knocked down the dining room wall. That day, when he'd arrived home to find her covered in a film of white dust, she'd looked like a ghost. "I could have helped if you'd waited," Terry'd said. May ruffled her hair, powdering the air. "You're never home. If I don't do these things, who will?" "Geez, it's not like I'm off having an affair." "Oh, I know," she said. "The only birds you're interested in are the ornithological kind." He shivered at the memory. "I'll find you," he called. When May first asked about the cost of his birdwatching gear, Terry insisted that only top-of-the-range equipment would yield the best results. Spirit-seeking required nothing less. Terry spared no expense, putting together a comprehensive ghost hunting kit. When the living room curtains fluttered, he pointed his new laser thermometer at them, flooding the spot with infrared. But the temperature didn't change. White noise hissed from a spirit box as it scanned radio frequencies for spectral communication. May? Are you here? The EMF detector screen flickered orange. Terry's head torch beamed onto the page as he penciled the reading in his notebook.
4. Always keep a detailed field journal.
Night after night, Terry scoured both floors of the house, searching for May's incorporeal form. In desperation, he changed his magazine subscription to a paranormal publication to glean tips from seasoned hunters.
5. Do your research.
After a week of no sightings, Terry had almost given up hope when he remembered an article he'd read. Placing a sentimental object in a room can draw a spirit forth. Terry's digital equipment hummed as he lay on his side of the bed. He twisted off his wedding ring and rested it on the indent in May's pillow, like an offering. He didn't need the thermometer to tell him the temperature had dropped. His breath plumed in the torchlight. Is that you, May? The spirit radio started to crackle and a voice spoke through the static. I'm here. Terry gripped the duvet. Don't be scared, said the distorted voice, like May was speaking from a place with poor reception. My darling, I knew you were here. Always. You never left me. Invisible fingers stroked his hair with a familiar, feather-like touch. Never. Terry turned his head in search of her, bathing May's side of the bed in torchlight. Fumbling for his wedding ring, he slid it back into place before the indent in May's pillow deepened. The voice on the radio stuttered. It's too bright.
6. Some species are nocturnal. Observe them in their natural habitat.
Terry switched off the torch. There's so much I need to say. May's spectral form glowed into being. Can't stay long, she mouthed, the radio communicating her words. I'm sorry, he said, his breath hitching. For a second, her cold hand clasped his. I wanted to say goodbye. Waited for you to find me, but it's time I spread my wings. His fingers fell through hers, but her smile never faltered. Love you, Terry. Blinding light seared the tears from his eyes. I love you too, May, he cried as she faded.
7. It's better to watch a captive bird fly free.
Good Lord. Stacey, what did you do? What did you do to me? I will be completely honest, I had to pause recording that story several times as I was welling up. I am not exaggerating. I'm not being dramatic. That story very, very gently kicked me in the face. And yeah, beautifully, beautifully done for me. And do excuse me waffling on here a little bit, but it's my show. I can waffle if I like. Portrayal of grief in fiction, particularly flash fiction where you don't have many words to make the point and set the scene. It's something it's very easy to overdo or to deliberately play very heavy-handed to get an emotional response from the reader or the listener. And I think what Stacey's done there is navigate that terrifically by just making everything seem so real. I say that in full awareness in that it's about ghost hunting and using the electromagnetic stuff and all of that paranormal side of things. But the way the relationship is described and the very real and eerie and mundane and just life-altering nature of grief It's rare to see it handled so well, especially in such a small amount of words, under 1,000 words. It will not be a surprise to you that that story did very well. It got to the Ferocious Four, the semi-finals in this particular battle in 2026, and I think we're going to see a lot more from Stacey. So very well done, Stacey George, with 7 tips for better bird watching. Finally, in terms of something different, we have a little piece of microfiction from an inanimate romance story. Now, those of you that were around in competition time will remember the inanimate romance genre that's just coming out with all sorts of things. It just produced all kinds of weird and wonderful stories. And I'm delighted that we've got The Cheese Stands Alone by Suzanne Link. Suzanne immediately leapt at the chance to narrate this herself, and I'm delighted she did. You are going to enjoy this. I will step back and let you enjoy, all based on the prompts of inanimate romance, loner, and toothpick. This is The Cheese Stands Alone, written and narrated by Suzanne Link.
I stand alone on the eviscerated charcuterie board. My fellow cheese cubes, cheddar, Gouda, even Havarti, long gone. My bouquet deters the faint of heart. Time and rejection have left my skin calloused. The party's winding down. A lingerer casts a leery eye on me. Hope shivers through my milk proteins. His nose wrinkles.
Ew, Limburger.
His derision cuts through me, rebuffed again. Across the table, he shifts a leafy garnish. And there, sanguine-hued, in rugged casing, sliced chorizo, alone, abandoned. A garlicky hello wafts toward me. I reciprocate with an aromatic hi there. We're the last ones here. Her pork fat glistens in the candlelight. Yes, some don't appreciate uniqueness, but some do. She blows me a kiss. A swirl of smoked paprika and anticipation floats over. Her spiciness softens my curds. Before I can respond, a toothpick stabs through me. Panic momentarily seizes me. Not now! Will I lose her? But then the toothpick skewers her, and we are face to face. Her coarseness grazes my smooth flesh. A warmth ripens in me. I long to press against her, but I don't want to be presumptuous. Are we moving too fast, I ask? Life's short. Why wait? We nestle together as the toothpick transports us through space, our collective pungency trailing in our wake. As we pass the partygoer's lips, we plunge into the abyss together. Two forsaken hors d'oeuvres destined to meet. No longer separate, we blend and meld, merging into a new perfection. Delectable, harmonious, one.
There you go. If you've never heard a story of a fierce, blossoming relationship between a piece of cheese and a piece of sausage, now you have, and you are welcome. Just wonderful, just silly, but very well done silly. Silly has to be done to a high quality or it's just a waste of everyone's time, and that was marvellous. Very funny, very slickly done, and Suzanne got herself all the way to the Ferocious Four, the semi-finals, with that piece in that battle. Richly deserved success, really, really well done, and I'm glad we were able to feature this on the show. There we go. 4 stories, and now for something different. I hope you enjoyed the emotional roller coaster that we put you through today. 4 excellent stories, and once again, I'm very grateful that I get to sit here and organise these stories to be shared with you all. I could bang on about that for hours, but let's not do that, eh? Let's not do that. Just know that I appreciate you, whether you're a writer, a narrator, a listener, whoever. I appreciate you a great deal. Thank you for listening to One More Short Story with me, Chris Fulwell. We'll see you next time.